Okay, so imagine a courtroom, totally silent, and a survivor standing there strong, and the judge is about to deliver a sentence that could change, well, a lot of lives. Today, we're going to really get into an update on Diana's story. Diana,
Yeah.
the woman whose strength and resilience just really captivated everyone.
Yeah, I remember her story.
From Something Was Wrong, that podcast.
Right.
And her story, well, if you remember, was all about, uncovering this really horrifying truth. Her partner was sexually abusing both her daughter and her niece.
Yeah, it's just a story that sadly, resonates with just way too many families. A reminder that these crimes, they often happen where we think it's the safest, our homes.
Exactly. And so today we're going to kind of explore what's happened, since that initial revelation. We'll follow Diana's journey through the courtroom, hear those powerful words, and just witness, like, the impact of justice actually, like, being served.
Yeah, sounds like there's a lot to unpack here. From, the emotions of the sentencing to the long road ahead for Diana and her family to heal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's start with that courtroom. Diana was there, front and center for the sentencing of her former partner, Paul. And it was her daughter, Gracie, who delivered one of the most powerful statements of the day. It wasn't Diana herself who read it, but the words, even spoken by someone else, just carried the weight of, well, Gracie's experience.
Yeah, victim impact statements, they're so powerful. They really give a chance for survivors to, like, get their voice back,
Yeah.
to speak directly to the court and just, lay out the just huge impact the crime has had on their lives.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Gracie's statement did. She spoke about the guilt she carried. Like, she believed if she had just spoken up sooner, she could have protected her cousin.
Hmm.
Imagine carrying that at such a young age.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It reminds us of, like, the tough emotions that come with abuse, especially for kids. That self-blame, the fear, just all the confusion. It's just a lot to carry.
Yeah, for sure. But even with all that pain, Gracie's strength, it really came through. And she wasn't alone in, speaking truth to power that day. The district attorney, she gave a compelling argument calling for a higher standard, of accountability for Paul.
Hmm. It's an important point, especially when you consider Paul's background. I mean, he was in the military, a retired police officer, and an adoptive father.
Wow.
So the district attorney, she was arguing that these positions, they didn't just make his crimes worse, but also showed just a major, like, breach of trust.
It's chilling. Like, these abusers often have these positions that give them power and respect, making it so much harder for victims to, actually come forward.
Exactly. Yeah. And the judge, I mean, in his statement, he kind of echoed that.
Yeah.
He didn't hold back, calling Paul's actions like depraved and predatory.
No.
He recognized just how serious those crimes were and, the lasting impact they'd have.
You could tell just from his tone, the words he chose, this wasn't just like another case for him. He got it, the violation that had happened and the need for a sentence that, showed how serious the crime was.
Right. And so what was the verdict? Like, how did the judge, turn those words into a real consequence?
So Paul, he got the max, 30 years, no parole. He was 47 then, so that means he'll be like in his late 70s before they even think about letting him out.
Wow. It's a big sentence.
Yeah.
It says loud and clear, these crimes won't be tolerated. And I bet it gives the survivors, like, some validation, knowing the system took their suffering seriously.
Absolutely. And actually, it doesn't end there. There are 7 more counts against Paul in another county, so that could add another 25 years.
Wow. So it sounds like the legal system, in this case at least, is really working hard to make sure Paul is held accountable for, well, everything he did. It really shows the dedication of, law enforcement and the prosecutors fighting for justice for these victims.
I totally agree. So we've got this powerful courtroom scene. There's a heavy verdict, but what about Diana's reaction to all of this? How did she handle the sentencing and, finally closing this chapter?
Right, because, I mean, it's one thing for justice to be served, legally, but the emotional impact on the survivors, that's a whole other thing. I'm really interested to hear how Diana, handled all that.
Well, Diana talked about the relief,
I
like
s-
a weight lifted off her shoulders, the feeling that she and her family, they could finally move on without the legal process hanging over them.
Yeah, that feeling of closure, it can be incredibly healing, knowing they don't have to face their abuser in court again, that the legal battle is over. It lets them, start to focus on healing and rebuilding.
Right. But we have to acknowledge that, closure doesn't erase the trauma. The scars run deep. And healing, it's a long, often really difficult journey.
Oh, absolutely. Trauma, especially from childhood, can show up in so many ways. It can affect, mental health, relationships, just overall well-being. It's a journey that needs constant support, therapy, and just, taking care of yourself.
And that's exactly what Diana and her daughters are doing. They're in trauma therapy, working through the pain and all those really complicated emotions from what they went through.
That's great. Trauma therapy can be like this safe and supportive place for survivors to process their experience, develop ways to cope and just begin to heal. It's a crucial part of recovery.
For sure. And it seems like therapy is really helping them. Diana shared that her daughters, they're actually doing great. Their grades are up, they've gotten back into their hobbies, and they're socializing more.
That's amazing to hear. It just shows, how resilient they are and the power of therapy. It reminds us that healing, it's possible even after something so awful.
Yeah. And it's not just Diana's daughters who are showing, like, incredible strength. Her niece, Tessa, she actually graduated high school a year early
Yeah.
after everything she went through.
It's incredible how some people, even after trauma, they don't just survive, they thrive. Tessa graduating early, that just shows how resilient and determined she is.
And Diana herself, she's amazing. She graduated college at 39, and now she's a surgical first assistant.
Wow, that's so inspiring. It just shows how she's rebuilt her life. She's going after her passions, achieving her goals, and setting a powerful example for her daughters that, you can overcome anything and build a great life.
Exactly. And there's one more big step they're taking for a fresh start. They're selling the house where the abuse happened.
It's a powerful symbol, right? Letting go of that physical space can be so freeing. It's about making a new environment without those painful memories and, filling it with new good experiences.
It's about taking back their lives, their space, and making a home filled with joy and healing.
It sounds like Diana and her family, they're really taking charge of their healing, but I'd love to hear more about that journey. Like, what specific things or resources helped them along the way?
That's exactly where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore how Diana approached healing, the resources that were, like, key to her recovery, and a really inspiring message of hope and resilience. We're talking about Diana's decision to sell that house, right?
Right.
A powerful symbol, for sure, of moving on. But healing, it's not just about, physical places. It's about dealing with those deep emotional wounds that trauma leaves. So let's dig into that part of Diana's journey. What did she share about, the whole healing process?
Yeah, it's different for everyone, but there are usually like common threads, support systems, ways of coping that can really help. What stood out to you about how Diana approached healing?
Well, Diana really talked about those resources that helped her family recover.
Uh-huh.
And she highlighted the Child Advocacy Center.
Right.
Remember how we talked about their role earlier? Conducting those, like, really sensitive forensic interviews with kids who've been through abuse.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Those interviews are so important for gathering evidence, and making sure the child doesn't go through more trauma. It needs like a special approach, a lot of sensitivity and skill.
Yeah, and Diana said that her local Child Advocacy Center, they did way more than just the interview.
Really?
They actually connected her family with this organization that gave them, like, practical help.
Yep.
They even replaced all the furniture in the rooms where the abuse happened.
Wow, that's amazing. It shows that healing isn't just about, dealing with emotional pain. It's about creating a safe and comfortable space, a
Yeah.
place without those physical reminders of the trauma.
It's about taking back that space,
Yeah.
filling it with positive energy. And the support didn't stop there. Diana also got some financial help from another organization,
Oh, wow.
which really helped while she was taking time off work to, deal with the legal stuff and be there for her family.
Yeah, because the financial strain in these situations, it can be like crushing. Legal fees, therapy costs, lost wages, it all adds up, and creates so much stress on top of everything else.
Yeah, it's a hidden cost of abuse that people don't always think about.
Yeah.
But beyond the, practical help, Diana talked about connecting with national organizations like, RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network.
Oh, yeah, they're fantastic. They've got that 24/7 hotline, online chat, and just tons of information for survivors and their families. Their reach is huge, and they've made a real difference, both in people's lives and changing policies.
Totally. And she also mentioned the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. They have resources specifically for parents of kids who've gone through sexual abuse.
Right, because that's something we often forget, the ripple effect. Parents, they're dealing with their own shock and grief, while trying to help their kids heal. Having resources just for them, that's so important. Yeah.
Diana emphasized finding the right resources, the ones that really fit your needs and what you believe in. It can be overwhelming at first, but she said that, having that support network really makes a difference.
Yeah, it's about building a team, of people and organizations who get the complexities of trauma and can guide and support you along the way. So you're not alone.
And what's incredible is that Diana isn't just like receiving support, she's giving back too. She started a support group for women going through similar things.
Wow, that says so much about her strength, and her wanting to turn her pain into healing for others. There's something so powerful about sharing experiences, about knowing you're not alone in your struggle.
It's about creating that community,
Yeah.
a safe space where women can connect, share their stories, and draw strength from each other's resilience. And Diana's commitment to making a difference doesn't end there. She's become a big advocate for changing laws around sexual abuse, joining that movement, pushing for more accountability and prevention.
Yeah, this is where real change happens. When personal stories lead to collective action, it's about turning that personal pain into a force for, changing society. Diana speaking out, it could really impact so many lives.
Absolutely. And she's not just advocating in a general way, she's highlighting a really disturbing statistic. Remember that figure we talked about at the beginning?
Yeah.
That only 1% of rapists end up in prison.
Oh, yeah. A statistic that really shows how hard it is for survivors to get justice.
Well, Diana shared another statistic that shines a light on how hidden this crime is. 93% of child sexual abuse cases, it's someone the victim knows.
Wow, that's tough to hear. It shatters that stranger danger myth, and shows we need way more awareness and education in families and communities.
Exactly. We have to be vigilant, not just about strangers, but about people we trust. We need to teach kids about boundaries and empower them to speak up if something feels wrong.
Yeah. And within that 93%, almost a third of abusers are family members, which makes things even more complicated.
It's a heartbreaking reality, but we can't ignore it. Facing this truth is the first step to preventing it and creating a safe and supportive culture for kids.
It's about, shifting our focus. Not just protecting kids from strangers, but creating this broader understanding that abuse can happen within families, communities, places where we trust people.
That means open communication, education, and being willing to face some uncomfortable truths. Diana's willingness to share these statistics, to bring this hidden problem to light, that's such a powerful act of advocacy.
It reminds us that staying silent protects abusers. Speaking out, sharing our stories, and demanding change, that's how we can create a safer and more just world.
Her courage and dedication to making a difference are truly inspiring. But I'm also really struck by her insights into, self-care and finding joy after trauma. It's something that resonates with so many people, not just survivors of abuse.
Yeah, definitely. We often think of self-care as like a luxury, something we do when we have time. But Diana's story shows how crucial it is for healing and resilience. It's about understanding that taking care of ourselves, it's not selfish, it's essential.
Yeah, you can't give from an empty cup, right?
Yeah.
You can't really support others, fight for change, or deal with life's challenges if you're running on empty.
Right. And what did Diana say about, what self-care actually looks like? What were some of the things she did to take care of herself?
We've talked about the courtroom, the resources, that long road to healing. But what I find so inspiring about Diana's story is how she just keeps focusing on finding joy, embracing life after, going through something so awful.
Yeah, it's like almost radical, choosing joy when things have been so dark. It kind of goes against how we usually see survivors, focusing only on the pain and struggles.
And Diana, she just throws it out the window. She talks about how important it is to, really see your accomplishments, even the small ones. It's about celebrating those victories, those moments of strength as you rebuild your life.
It's like shifting your view, right? From what's gone to what's being built, from the pain of the past to what's possible in the future. It's about seeing that healing takes time, and every step, no matter how small, is worth celebrating.
And she talked about how, it's easy to fall into self-doubt and guilt after trauma. Those negative thoughts, they can really eat away at you.
Yeah, it's like weeds, They take over if you don't work on creating a more positive space inside.
But Diana, she found a way to fight those thoughts. She came up with this mantra, a powerful statement to remind herself how strong she is.
A tool to quiet that inner critic and replace it with, a voice of power. What was it, the mantra that helped her change her view?
She would say to herself straight up, "Girl, you moved mountains."
Wow. I mean, it's raw and real and so powerful, like a declaration of her strength, a reminder of her incredible resilience.
And it's not just words, right? It's actions, too. Remember, she finished college at 39 while dealing with all of this. She didn't let the trauma define her. She made a new path for herself. And now she's rocking it as a surgical first assistant.
It just shows that healing doesn't mean forgetting or, downplaying the past. It's about weaving those experiences into your life and moving forward with strength and purpose. Diana's story, it's a powerful reminder that we can achieve amazing things even after going through really tough times.
And she said it's not about comparing yourself to others or minimizing your achievements. Every step forward is a win. Whether it's getting out of bed, going to therapy, or getting that dream job, acknowledge those wins. Give yourself credit for the strength it took to get there.
Yeah, it's about honoring your own path and recognizing that healing and growth, they look different for everyone. There's no one right way to do it.
And for those who, struggle to see their own accomplishments, Diana's advice is simple, but so powerful. Be kind to yourself. Take time to rest and acknowledge your strength.
Those three things, kindness, rest, acknowledgement, they're like the foundation of self-care and resilience, the base on which we rebuild our lives.
It's about creating a space for healing and growth, inside and out. Remember how Diana decided to sell the house? That was a huge step in creating a new beginning, a place free from the past.
Reclaiming her space, right. Filling it with new, happy memories. It's about choosing to create a home that reflects her family's journey of healing.
Yeah. And she's not just focusing on the physical space, she's actively bringing joy into her life. Those concerts with her daughters, the vacations, those simple moments of laughter and connection, it's all part of her choosing happiness.
It's a powerful reminder that joy, it's not a luxury, it's essential. It keeps us going, it's the light that guides us through the dark, and it's something we can actively cultivate, even when things are tough.
Diana talked about finding joy in, the simple things like listening to her favorite music, spending time in nature, just letting herself relax and recharge.
It's about realizing that joy is in those everyday moments, if we're open to it. Shifting our focus from what's missing to what's there, from what's wrong to what's right.
And she emphasized that, putting joy first isn't selfish. It's realizing you can't give what you don't have. You can't really care for others, fight for change, or deal with life's challenges if you're drained and running on empty.
Self-care, it's not something extra, it's a must. It's how we build resilience, strength, and the ability to feel joy.
Diana's story, it powerfully reminds us that even in the darkest times, there's always hope, there's always the potential for healing, and there's always a reason to choose joy.
It's a reminder that we all have a story, a journey, and something unique to offer the world. And even though our stories might be different, the message of resilience, hope, and the strength of the human spirit, that's universal.
If there's one thing you hope listeners take away from this deep dive into Diana's incredible story, what would it be?
I hope it's understanding that resilience isn't about being untouchable, like trauma doesn't affect you. It's about finding the strength to keep going, to get support, to embrace joy, and to create a life that has meaning and purpose, even after going through unimaginable pain.
And sometimes that journey starts with just being kind to yourself, taking a moment to rest, or listening to a song that speaks to you.
Diana's story shows us that the human spirit can overcome anything and come out stronger, wiser, and more caring. And her message of hope and healing, it can speak to us all no matter what challenges we face.
So as you go through your own life, remember Diana's story. Embrace your strength, reach out for support when you need it, and never underestimate the power of choosing joy even in the dark.
And remember, you're not alone. There's a whole community of survivors, advocates, and allies who understand your journey and are there for you every step of the way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Diana's amazing journey. We'll leave you with one last thought from Diana herself. You deserve it all. The joy is an important part of the equation. The peace is an important part of the equation.
Go out there and create a life full of joy, peace, and that unshakable belief in your own strength.